What happens when the origin story doesn't lead to a lunchbox or a movie deal, but to a bottle of whiskey and a broken door? We're used to the ascent, the spider bite, the super soldier serum, the moment the hero rises. But today, we're looking at a descent. We're talking about a character who proves that sometimes the greatest superpower isn't flight or strength, it's the sheer gritty will to get out of bed after the world has crushed you. Today, we're opening the case file on Marvel's most defiant survivor, the private eye who shattered the Silver Age illusion, Jessica Jones. Welcome back to this episode of Marvel Echoes Resonance. I'm your host, Will, and today we're stepping away from the cosmic gods and the kings we've covered recently to look at the street level, specifically the dingy, noir-soaked office of Alias Investigations. But before we get to talk about Jessica herself, we have to talk about the world she was born into. Because to understand Jessica Jones, you have to understand November of 2001. For decades, Marvel Comics operated under the heavy thumb of the Comics Code Authority, as we've talked about in previous episodes. This was a censorship body that ensured comics were safe. No excessive violence, no swearing, no sexual themes, and the heroes always had to be morally pure, more or less. It created the glossy, four-color world of the Silver Age. But by the turn of millennium, Marvel realized they needed to grow up. They needed a space to tell stories about the ugly, messy parts of life. Again, the world outside your window. So, they created the Max imprint. This was the R-rated line. It was designed to bypass the comics code entirely. It allowed creators to use profanity, explore adult relationships, and depict violence that wasn't stylized, but brutal and realistic. And the flag bearer for this revolution? It wasn't Wolverine or the Punisher, which we've already covered. At least not yet. It was a brand new series called Alias, created by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaidos. Alias didn't use his freedom just to be edgy. It was used to construct a psychological profile of failure. It opened with the F word, sure, but more importantly, it opened with a protagonist who was hungover, angry, and downright hated herself. Jessica Jones was the answer to the question, what happens to the heroes who don't make the cut? Now, here's the genius of the writing. Even though Jessica debuted in 2001, her story is a retroactive origin. Bendis claimed she had been there the whole time, existing in the blurry background of the Marvel Universe we all know and love, very similar to what we discussed in the Sentry episode. Before she was the cynical PI, Jessica Campbell was a student at Midtown High. In fact, she was sitting right there in the classroom with Peter Parker. We talked about that back in episode 3, how Peter's choice defined him. Well, Jessica was watching that choice unfold from the cheap seats. She had a massive, unrequited crush on Peter. And she was actually present at the science exhibit where the spider bit him. But while Peter went home to a destiny of great power and great responsibility, Jessica went home to a tragedy that felt random and cruel. Her origin spark wasn't a noble sacrifice. It was a car crash. During a family road trip to Disney World, a trip paid for by her father's boss, Tony Stark, the car collided with a military transport carrying radioactive chemicals. It killed her family instantly and put her in a coma for months. And here's where the echo begins. Jessica didn't wake up to a doctor's gentle voice. She woke up because the cosmic entity Galactus had arrived on Earth for the first time, way back in Fantastic Four. The sheer cosmic radiation of that event jump-started her dormant, chemically altered cells. She woke up an orphan, but she woke up with power, super strength, durability, and flight. So she tried to play the game. She dyed her hair pink, put on a white bodysuit, and called herself Jewel. And for 4 years, she failed. Not because she was incompetent, but because she was inconsequential. She was a C-list hero in a world of gods. She wanted to matter, but she was largely invisible. And that invisibility is what led her to her darkest moment in her life. We have to talk about Purple Man, Zebediah Kilgrave. If the car crash was her physical origin, Kilgrave was her psychological origin. This is the resin art. This defines everything about her. It wasn't a battle. Jessica saw a disturbance at a restaurant, flew down to help, and found Kilgrave eating dinner. He simply looked at her and said, "Stop." And because his power is viral pheromone, that forces total obedience, she stopped. For 8 months, Jessica was a prisoner in her own body. Kilgrave stripped away her will, reducing a woman who could lift a car into an helpless observer of her own degradation. He didn't use her to conquer the world. He used her to satisfy his petty, sadistic boredom. The ordeal only ended when Kilgrave, in a fit of rage, sent her to kill Daredevil. Disoriented and traumatized, she flew to Avengers Mansion and attacked the Scarlet Witch instead. And here's the tragedy. The Avengers didn't see a victim. They saw a threat. The Vision and Iron Man beat her into a second coma. When she woke up, thanks to Jean Grey helping unlock her mind, she realized a terrifying truth. 8 months, nobody came looking for her. The Avengers didn't notice Joel was gone. That broke her. She realized the superhero game was a lie. She hung up the costume, bought a leather jacket, and opened Alias investigations. She decided to stop trying to save the world and start trying to save the people the world forgot, just like she had been forgotten. So, as we always do, we're going to fast forward a bit and catch you up on the last decade of Jessica's life. If you leave her in the early 2000s, you leave her as a traumatized PI, closing the door on her past. But the modern era forced that door wide open again. The biggest shift happened when Jessica became a mother. The birth of her daughter, Danielle Cage, fundamentally rewired her motivations. She wasn't just surviving for herself anymore. She was fighting to ensure her daughter never inherited her trauma. And that fear was put into absolute test in 2016 when the original creative team of Bendis and Gaidos reunited. They brought the Purple Man back, but this time, the dynamic had flipped. Kilgrave thought he was dealing with the broken girl from the restaurant, but he was dealing with a mother. Jessica played a terrifying long con, letting him think he had control, only to reveal she had been immune the entire time. It wasn't a fistfight. It was a masterclass in psychological warfare. She didn't just beat him, she dismantled the hold he had on her entire life. But we've said this time and time again, comics rarely let a happy ending sit for long. In the last few years, writers like Kelly Thompson took that fear of legacy and made it literal. There was a terrifying arc called Purple Daughter, where Danielle, her innocent baby, suddenly turned purple. Jessica had to face the nightmare that Kilgrave's influence might be genetic, forcing her to tear through the underworld to find a cure. It highlighted that while Jessica has healed, the scars are always itching beneath the surface. And things got a little weirder recently in a story called The Variants. Jessica came face to face with alternate versions of herself from the multiverse. A Captain America Jessica who did everything right, and a version of Joel who never met Kilgrave. It was a brilliant character study, forcing our Jessica to look at the perfect life she could have led and realizing that her own broken, messy road gave her a resilience those other versions lacked. Right now, in the current landscape, Jessica has been operating as the First Lady of the street level, with Luke Cage serving as the Mayor of New York. She's been in the boots on the ground during the gang war, navigating a city of chaos and proving you don't need a mask to hold the line. But here's the most recent news that probably has every Jessica fan absolutely losing their minds. Just as we thought she was settling in as a supporting role, Marvel dropped a bombshell. We are officially getting a brand new volume of Alias coming out next year. That's right, not Jessica Jones, but Alias. The return to the specific title has a huge signal. It suggests we're going back to the gritty noir roots, solo cases, moral gray areas, and Jessica doing what she does best, fighting for the people the Avengers ignore. It feels like the perfect full circle moment for a character who has evolved so much, yet never lost that spark of rebellion. Jessica Jones is often described as unlikable. She's rude, she drinks too much, she pushes people away, and she's messy. But I want to leave you with a question. Is that unlikability actually her superpower? In a universe full of perfect, shiny moral compasses like Captain America, isn't there something profoundly heroic about a person who is fundamentally broken but gets up and does the right thing anyways? I'd love to hear your take, so let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thanks for listening to this episode of Marvel Echoes. If you enjoy the deep dive into the broken history of Jessica Jones, make sure you subscribe and follow so you don't miss any future episodes. We've got some other heavy hitters coming up next week, and you don't want to miss them. Leaving a like and a 5-star review really help the podcast grow and reach many more fans like you. And hey, drop a comment letting me know which street level hero we should cover next. Iron Fist? Misty Knight? There's so many good heroes out there. And for more content, including a full deep dive article on Jessica's history and some new reader guides, make sure you visit the website in the links below. Until next time, true believers, make mine Marvel.